This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road, Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to welcome to the show today Lindsay Mack.
Hey.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. You sound so clear and crisp.
Oh, maybe just these new headphones.
Yay!
Cool. Maybe I finally learned how to use them.
That's okay. I just learned how to use the timer on my smartwatch.
I don't even know how to do that. Okay.
I didn't even know it existed. I was looking to do my heart rate variability, and I skipped across. Oh my gosh, I have a timer. A watch is a watch, people.
I know, you just want to read something new every day, literally.
I could if I had the time. I just simply don't have the time. Or I don't even think I had music on my phone until probably like the last 4 or 5 years. So while everybody else was like MP3 streaming and doing all this stuff, I'm like, no, I need my battery for my phone.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm kind of in that same boat, I would think. Because I mean,
right?
Yeah.
That my girlfriend just told me she slid into my DMs on Instagram and I about fell over. I said, you did what? She's like, come on, you don't know what a DM is? Sliding into someone's DM? I said, I do. I've just never had it happen to me before because I never owned it like Instagram or Snapchat, or I've never owned any of these accounts up until probably the last month. And she just discovered it. She lives in Florida. And she said that she sent me a recipe by it, but then had to text me to tell me she sent it. I don't have time for that social media stuff. I pay my assistant to do that. Oh, that's hilarious. Well, I was starting out today with just some rhetoric. It was interesting that I got yesterday because last week we talked about this 80-year-old man in this handwriting case that I had, and he had received this propaganda from, I think it was like conservative association of waste by the government or something like that. And his responses were absolutely hilarious. Like he wrote on there, duh. Like he's 80 years old and he's writing capital D.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Duh. And he's like, every time they say something, just reprint the law larger and larger each time they disagree and show them it's a law on the books. They have to follow it. But we can clearly see that's not what the government does, right?
Yeah. I love it when I see old people online. I love it. It gets me so excited. I don't even know why, but it's just so exciting for me. Like an 80-year-old online. Oh my God, it's so cool to me.
Well, and we were just talking last week about Jack and his experience with the internet. So mind you, we're in 1997 and he's signing up for the internet. And at that time, he is probably, 97, 28. I think, is he 28? I think he's 28. 1928 is when he was born. So he's not terribly old at that point, but he's getting up there. He's getting up towards the 70s, but he's always been technologically sound. So, that it didn't shock me that he was getting the internet, but how did he have the money to do something that most Americans couldn't afford to do at the time?
I don't think my mom had one in 97.
I know my family didn't. There was absolutely, that was not a computer in the home. I don't even think, well, took my dad a bit longer.
My grandmother was the first one to get one. I know, because she was, they retired to the beach and she wanted to somehow to communicate with everybody. So she got one and then we would email each other back and forth after so many years after she'd had her computer. So
wasn't that the funnest thing?
Emailing, yes. I miss that. I do. I really do. I go back to my old original email, the first email I ever had, sometimes just to reminisce, really.
Yeah, and I had to in a case. One of the cases that I was working on was a will that had been forged and had been produced in 2017 after being non-existent. The man died in 2015. And in 2017, this will pops up. And by 2019, my client is contacting me to render an opinion on the signature. So I went to the courthouse to view the will, and the will purported to have been made in 2001, but it was extremely bright. I was like, wow, this is the brightest white piece of paper that's 20 something years old that I have ever seen. So I came back home and I climbed into, I kept not an email file, if you will, but it was all emails in there from me and one of my best friends when we first got onto the internet and started emailing each other. And I had all of these emails from 2001 in that file, which has been kept in a filing cabinet all these years, basically protected from most things. But when I pulled them out, the variation and degree of yellowing that occurred from 2001 through like 2017 was very apparent which one was from 2001. So I went in and I snapshotted pictures of the will next to these different gradations of color on the emails that I had, and it mapped out literally to 2017 when my client says he believed they built and forged this will. I was blown. I'm like, the whiteness of it was precisely 2017. We lost, which is kind of unfortunate. I couldn't believe a judge, somebody who probably handles documents more than anybody else that I would know of in my life, didn't understand that premise that there should have been aging on that paper that didn't occur, on top of the fact that the signature was a trace forgery. So a little disappointed, but sometimes these judges, they think they know best and they're going to decide what they want to. Something to control. Anyways, the rhetoric that I got yesterday was a brochure saying, voters, your signature will help stop waste and fraud. Now, ask me how I feel about that.
It's a scam.
It's a scam. Anything that's targeting voters, they're up to something.
Good morning, Nolan. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Yeah, they want your signature for some reason.
Well, they want our signatures, obviously, to place on the ballot, they say, a Transparency Act, which is supposed to, well, we'll get to that, but just to read this stuff was quite comical, knowing what we've been dealing with and knowing that we can't control what any politician does. I mean, we saw Newsom redistrict California because he claims he wants to pounce back at Trump for redistricting Texas and Florida. Well, those people redistrict on their own, but he wants to call it Trump in order to, satiate his constituents into voting to remove something we voted for before, which was allowing somebody other than politicians to handle the redistricting for voting purposes. So do we really have any control? No, but I laugh that this is going to get it on the ballot. And even if we vote for it, what does that mean? Well, the letter that we read last week from the 80-year-old basically stated that the DOJ was preventing the IGs from going in and investigating different frauds and wasteful spending and different things like, well, they mentioned sex parties with the Obama administration and the DEA and all of these things. So if they can still prevent it in the end, isn't this just meant to play on our emotions?
Oh yeah, that's how they get to you. That's literally the easiest way, is through your emotion. That's why it's so important when you're researching to set that emotion aside, like completely eliminate it from what you're doing. Because if you don't, then you won't have that clear mindset to see what you need to see.
What you need to see, yeah. Well, it goes on to say politicians have wasted billions on failed programs with too little to show for it. Californians can't afford more wasteful spending. That's why it's critical that you sign and return the official petition arriving soon in a separate envelope package. When you receive it, please fill it out carefully and return it promptly because the deadline is approaching and it's urgently qualified for the ballot to stop the politicians' waste. I love the near empowerment that they're trying to imply with this, that as if we actually do vote for it, that it's going to become something that we can then rely on or count on. I don't know who this organization is that's doing it, but They went on to say voters can stop the politicians. I again giggled from spending billions of our tax.
So
uh,
is it
for
the more signatures they get, the easier it is to get it on the ballot? Is that the deal?
Yeah, I think you need something like 250,000 signatures or
Okay,
something.
that's why they want your signature. Okay.
Right, right. So they're going to be sending this out. And of course, why wouldn't every single Californian sign this, right? Why wouldn't everybody want to stop or bring accountability? But it says we can stop the politicians from spending billions of our tax dollars on failed programs. Your signature will bring accountability and transparency and end the waste. California voters, in the coming days, you'll receive blah, blah, blah. Containing an official voter petition for the Transparency Act. This important measure is designed to help stop waste, fraud, and abuse of our tax dollars and give voters the information we need to hold politicians accountable. The Transparency Act will, it says, require independent financial audits of new taxes. But it's not going to provide people to stop the people who stop us from doing those audits that we saw in that 2016 letter last week. It says require audit results to be posted publicly, including in the voter information guide, and require new taxes to comply with California's state spending limit, ensuring excess revenues are refunded to taxpayers, not handed to special interests. Either way, is this where they say our vote counts? Huh.
Right.
I just thought that was kind of comical because right now they are talking about coming in and investigating California and Governor Newsom. I mean, we did see on one of those they used a beautiful picture of our downtown homeless camp in the actual brochure. And of course, everybody is really kind of giving kudos to Newsom for his allowance and letting the homeless camps continue. And what's that?
A quick comment on politicians and the homeless issue.
Yeah.
Seems like everyone wants to throw money at it to the point of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per each homeless person, and nothing ever helps. Why don't we try not spending a dime for like a year and see what happens? I mean, it's not. I think it'll be about the same. The problem is not ever going to go away, no matter how much we spend.
No, well, if people are dead set on doing drugs and living on the streets and not, picking up and moving on and building something with their life, there's nothing we can do about that. I don't know how we could, get them out, because I feel like if they didn't put any money towards the homelessness problem, that it, like you said, it's only going to get bigger. And then who's impacted by that? I feel bad for the people who have to live in or around or walk past that particular homeless camp.
It's a political football. You have to, if you're an elected politician, it's an issue with the public because people don't like seeing the homeless people. They're eyesores, and they're actually, I've been attacked by a homeless guy.
Well, I remember that.
So it's a problem, but all the money they throw at it is not helping. So that's my point.
I know that here in Citrus Heights, and I found this out the hard way, one Thanksgiving, I decided to get up and make a massive amount of breakfast burritos. I mean, a massive amount. I probably spent a good 4 or 5 hours on this, and I went out to try and give them to the homeless people that were in the area. And it turns out Citrus Heights relocates the homeless during the holidays so they don't play on our empathies, so that they're not asking us for food. Yeah. I was like blown away. I could not find one homeless person to give a burrito to. I had to drive 35 minutes out of my way to Rio Linda. You know what I'm talking about, Nolan. In order to find homeless camps, in order to be able to pass out all of this food that I made. So it's interesting the tactics that they'll take and the money that they'll spend to do what they do. But then that's because they want us to not be handing our money to them, not to be, empathetic for them, but to be out buying, Christmas gifts for people, because that's what makes them money, not us helping somebody else out. Either way. Here was another letter that was sent to me at one point in time. These are called the Hunter Thompson Gonzo communications, or Gonzo letters. The individual who sent them to me was under the impression there was a possibility that either A, he was the Zodiac, or B, the Zodiac wrote these letters on Hunter Thompson's paper. I don't really recall. It's been so long ago since I addressed it. And I know that when I was working on these letters, Terry B was extremely interested in them and had made comments about how, you know, he believed that the little red heart statement in these letters led back to Jack Terrence because he had a heart on his arm for his mom, blah, blah, blah. I've been told that these letters were very consistent with the Dear Marco letter or the Red Phantom letter that was it was about Count Marco, which was, I believe, a columnist, right? Did I lose Nolan?
Did you?
I done lost Nolan. Right at a journalist question. Anyways, when I put these letters side by side, there are some, I think that the most nagging characteristic that occurs is the way that backwards than that, is the way that he carries off the end of one of his letters way down deep into the next line, which I wanted to be able to show people some differences here because he tangles a lot. And so we can see, like in the word nothing here, and this G is moving right into the word the. This is somebody that is so busy, has so many fires or so many irons in the fire that he doesn't know what to do with himself. And it complicates the reading because it's dragging through the next line. That's nothing that you see happening really here inside of the Red Phantom letter. While we do see it dipping down into the next line, it's not literally tangling up with the next word beneath it. So that's a very big difference in the graphological world when we're talking about space and use of space, and how busy this individual over here is versus how not busy
Yeah.
the person who's committing the serial killings are. And that's kind of, I think that was my thought every time they named somebody who was very busy, either making movies, making, documentaries and starting nightclubs and doing all these things. These people are too busy to be out there preying on people and writing law enforcement. They've got better things to do with themselves. There you are. Nolan, you know Count Marco?
Yes.
You? Okay.
He was in the Chronicle, I believe. He was a columnist.
Columnist. Okay. So he basically just wrote articles for them, or was he like writing like Dear Ann letter?
No, he answered letters, but he also wrote columns. He was very well known, and that's why the Zodiac wrote to him.
Well, and he says, the Red Phantom says, since the Count can write anonymously, so can I.
Yeah, so, but the Phantom Zodiac, that's a Zodiac letter, right?
No, yeah, 100%. But what I'm saying is that he's intimating that Count Marco is writing under a pseudonym or some
it is
anonymous.
It's a made up name. Yes, I forget the guy's real name.
Okay, that's what I was looking for there.
Right.
I never checked him out because
he had the same name as those porn guys. What's that? The strip club.
What?
Yeah. So, there's a famous strip club in San Francisco with this Mitchell Brothers. He might have been related to them. I forget. But anyway, he just took on the name Count Marco.
Well, I was hoping by putting these letters side by side that you could look at them and see the differences between the handwriting itself, and to note that those differences are pretty severe. And in the fact that this is the disguise that the Zodiac chose to use, which are these long dragging tails and exit strokes that are occurring, is that we don't see things like the hyphenation and some of the forms. Like Hunter Thompson, it looks to me like he always used a capital letter R. And we've talked about this before, that the Zodiac clearly wrote in proper capitalization form with lowercase letters. And we don't see, more or less, these capital letter R's and things like that were accidentally dropped in any of the communication. So when we found a capital letter R, it was obviously intended, and it was a ruse and a disguise. It was not because he actually used that like we see in Hunter Thompson's writing.
This
Either
letter
way.
looks like it's to Ralph, the artist that accompanied him on the Kentucky Derby article, and they got in a bunch of shenanigans, but they also collaborated on other things.
Right. Well, and when you read it, it sounded like he was a little
Ralph
bit mad
Steadman.
at him. Ralph
Ralph
Steadman.
Steadman
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Because he says things like, "The joke's over, Ralph. You've sucked on my back long enough." Like, and he makes references to being pansexual or having but thanks anyway for this rotten pansexual art. So Stedman, was he an artist?
Yeah.
All
He did the
right.
drawings for some of the Thompson articles. The most
Let's
famous
see.
being the what's it, the Kentucky Derby one. That's where they
Gotcha.
almost got arrested, almost got killed, and did a ton of drugs and liquor. And Stedman wasn't used to that. Yeah, Thompson kind of turned him out a little bit.
Well, and Thompson has a very interesting past. So it says in 1967, shortly before the Summer of Love, Thompson wrote "The Hashberries is the capital of the hippies" for the New York Times Magazine. He criticized San Francisco's hippies as devoid of both the political convictions of the New Left and the artistic core of the Beats, resulting in a culture overrun with young people who spent their time in pursuit of drugs. The thrust is no longer for change or progress or revolution, but merely to escape, to live on the far perimeter of a world that might have been, perhaps should have been, and strike a bargain for survival in purely personal terms, he wrote. Later that year,
Sex,
Thompson
drugs, and rock and roll.
Right? They provide us with whatever it is that they want to distract us with. You know, they feed the inner cities with drugs. They throw cell phones into children's hands. It's something every decade, I think. Says later that year, Thompson and his family moved back to Colorado and rented a house in Woody Creek, a small mountain hamlet outside Aspen. And in early 1969, Thompson received a $15,000 royalty check for the paperback sales of Hell's Angel and used a portion of the proceeds on a down payment on a home and property where he would live for the rest of his life. It was a 110-acre piece of land that cost him $75,000, and he named the house Owl Farm and often described it as his fortified compound. So interestingly enough, while he was being accused, I'm guessing, of being the Zodiac, it shows that he was off in Colorado, not even in the California area. And then, of course, I want to say that he spent a year, let's see, it's notes purportedly, and he purportedly committed suicide at the age of 67. Let me see if I can figure out. His output declined in mid.
Yeah.
What's that?
Hunter Thompson was a gun freak. He owned lots of guns. He also ran for sheriff of Aspen, almost won.
Yeah, no, that's what's in this rhetoric here. So this is what I'm saying is that this man was far too busy, and the things that I'm telling people about right now is literally how busy he was that he couldn't have been off doing what the Zodiac was doing. So yeah, it says Thompson ran unsuccessfully for sheriff of Pitkin County in Colorado and in 1970 on the freak power ticket. So he's clearly during this very important time frame in Colorado running for a sheriff. I mean, of all things, but
he poured his heart and soul into that campaign too, so he had no time to do other stuff.
No, and it says Thompson's output declined as he struggled with the consequences of fame and substance abuse and failed to complete several high-profile assignments for Rolling Stone. For much of the late 1980s and early 1990s, he worked as a columnist for the San Francisco Examiner. So I think that's where people are putting together, but it's the wrong time frame, folks. Most of his work from 1979 to 1994 was collected in the Gonzo papers. He continued to write sporadically for outlets including Rolling Stone, Playboy, Esquire, and ESPN.com until the end of his life. We already discussed him running. He became known for his intense dislike of Richard Nixon, whom he claimed represented the dark, venal, and incurably violent side of the American character. He covered George McGovern's 1972 presidential campaign for Rolling Stone and later collected the stories in book form as Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail 72, which was done in 1973. He also did a bit on the Hells Angels, but he literally went underground and was not underground. I'm sure they knew who he was, but he traveled with them, basically, it looked like. some of the things that he's done.
That's what put him on the map, that book, the Hells Angels book. But he interfered in one of the angels was beating up his girlfriend, and he interfered, and so a bunch of them kicked his ass and almost killed him.
Oh, wow. And did you read that book?
I haven't. I've read parts of it, not the whole book. I'm highly familiar with it. There's a book right here.
Go the other direction. There you go. Gonzo. Okay.
Yeah. Gonzo.
So other things that he's known for.
He didn't write this. This is about all the people that knew him contributing chapters about his life.
Oh, gotcha. And that's called the Gonzo Papers?
No, just called Gonzo.
Oh, okay. So some other things.
The Gonzo Papers he wrote. Also,
gotcha.
There's another compilation called The Great American Shark Hunt. There's a compilation of his different short stories, and they're mainly essays, and they're nonfiction, and like kind of new journalism style. Well, he puts himself in the story.
Gotcha. Well, and some of the things that I did see that kind of cross-connected back and forth with Jack, some of the things that he's done, but 1961, he was in Big Sur Hot Springs as a security guard. In 1965, San Francisco, immersing himself in the drug and hippie culture, began writing for the Berkeley Underground paper, The Spider. And I looked at that, like the underground is something that the Zodiac talks about in the Tom Voigt letters. And then late 1967, he moves back to Colorado. And in 1968, he writes about Lyndon B. Johnson. We know that Jack had a relationship with Lyndon B. Johnson, hunted on his ranch, was invited to his wedding to his wife.
Wow.
Woody Creek, Colorado, right? That's what I some of these things cross-connected fairly well, and I can get the points or the coincidences that are occurring.
Yeah, it's too many of them.
Well, in 67 and the Haight-Ashbury too. That's where Manson started.
Well, and the whole entire thing is that the period is wrong for the Zodiac, for him being there and what he was doing at the time. It says he then moved to Woody Creek, Colorado, which we heard about him trying to become the sheriff. In 1985, he's writing on couples pornography research in San Francisco from mid-'80s to 1990. As a media critic for San Francisco Examiner, he wrote for Playboy, Politics, and Pornography. In 2000, and that's all right up the alley, right? I mean, yeah. Playboy, Politics, and Pornography. And it was well known back when the Zodiac was authoring letters, and especially in the D.B. Cooper one, where it had been noted that the cutouts had been pulled from a Playboy magazine and that the FBI had scoured these. What a job to have, guys. Scouring the Playboy magazines for criminal activity, they say. Anyways, 2005, he commits suicide or is suicided, I wrote down. But they did say recent developments, and this is interesting. Why in 2026? So there's an article that the Colorado Bureau of Investigation confirmed the original conclusion of suicide after a review requested by Thompson's widow, Anita. This review found no new evidence or circumstances that would change the initial findings from 2005. The investigation reaffirmed that Thompson had been suffering from chronic pain and depression prior to his death. And it's great that they put out there chronic pain and depression. Now, if you'd said chronic depression, I might have found him in line for somebody who might commit suicide, but it sounds to me like his wife did not believe it was suicide. So that's why I wrote in there, or suicided. Taken out for whatever.
I think it might have been a shotgun to the face.
Oh, boy. That would be a Chris Bush, right? Oakland County child murders. Either way. Now, interestingly enough, we just looked at this letterhead here that says Hunter S. Thompson at the top of these 5x7 letters, and I, lo and behold, come up with pretty much the same type of paper that Jack has.
Okay, yeah.
Nolan.
Yeah, sorry.
Can I get a guess, Carmen? Okay, he backed out. Good. Anyways, all right. So Jack Terrence had his own actual letterhead, just like Hunter Thompson. I was like, wow, look at that. They both, it must have been a thing back in the day for them to use, but this was approximately the same time frame. This letter was, let's see, found after December 23rd of 1996. And this is a letter to Dennis, which is the person who brought me into this case, believing that his stepdad, Jack, was the suspect or the best suspect as the Zodiac. But I pulled one thing out of here is that he says, I'll probably be talking to use guys. And use guys is a mob term.
Yeah.
And he spells it Y-O-U-S-E, use guys. I was like, that's interesting.
I think you tapped on that before. I think I forget what we were talking about before, but I remember seeing that term before.
Yeah, well, it's a popular mob term, use guys. That's like
that's what it was. We were talking about the mob. Yep.
Yeah. So interesting to find it in Jack's own handwriting, but again. We can see here where a lot of these extenders that we were talking about come down almost to the next line, but they don't tangle and overlap and cause confusion in the actual communication. So I find that Jack's writing is obviously much more consistent with the Red Phantom than Hunter Thompson's. So continuing on in Jack's life, we're in December 10th of 1997 now. Dennis and Charles totaled the Honda Accord at 2:35 a.m. when Charles was hit by a drunk driver. That's something that was out of Nora's diary. She also wrote on December 18th, 1997, that Flova, Jack's mother, passes away this morning. So Jack and Charles fly back to Texas to make arrangements to bury her. And Nora indicates that Flova never liked her, even since the day she met Jack 26 years ago. So this would actually confirm the statement that Jack and Nora met in 1971, even though I didn't have any evidence supporting that they were together until 1974. But by her own admissions in her diary, they had been together for 26 years. Now, while let's see here. Well, I don't know how long Jack was in Texas, but I threw in this other unsolved murder because he happened to have flown back at this point in time. On December 19th of 1997, we had 12-year-old Michelle Prasic and Valerie Lane in Spring, Texas, is a missing person, last seen at her residence, which many of the victims had been blonde hair, blue eyes, 135 pounds, and a birthmark on the palm of her hand. On December 20th, 1997, she was reported missing with an orange tabby cat and a blanket. So whoever it was that took her took things to make her comfortable as well, including her cat and her blanket. Kind of reminds me of the John Benet Ramsey wrapping her up in her blanket, or, like icky stuff. Also, Nora reconfirms that they break up. She's reconfirming what I say is that they break up only one time in 1991 for 3 months in their 26-year period. But I'm like, what about the divorce in the 80s? Was that a ruse to protect assets, or Jack's arrest for the assault with a deadly weapon against her and Dennis and the family? I know that there were many other occasions where it was supported that Jack was in a completely different place based on his mail and where it was going versus where Nora was. So she only says that they were only ever broken up for 3 months, but I show that period actually lasted into 1992 based on her own diary. So some things are just a little wacky. December 24th of 1997, Jack and Charles returned from Texas. So yes, they're there literally for 2 weeks, from December 10th till December 24th. So I've answered my own question. And they're driving back the Honda Civic that was left behind when they moved to California earlier this year. I had up, this is Suspect Zero. This is the DVD cover for one of the movies that I think it very closely resembles some of the programs that we've been talking about, and the possibility that Jack Terrence and the Zodiac Killer was some type of a program. The interesting part about this is that this is literally somebody purportedly working for the government, obviously off the books, undercover, out there searching for, I want to say searching, he's remote viewing different serial killers and seeing in his mind their crimes through this process of hypnosis that was used in order to induce these visions, and then he could track that serial killer and then kill him. And then on the other side of it is the FBI trying to track him because they think he's the serial killer, when in reality he's killing serial killers. So when people make the what's that?
It's crazy.
It will, and if you get the version with the special features, you will see that the program that was done by the military, one of the people who ran the program actually speaks on the remote viewing and what they do to use remote viewing to view setups of compounds in another country. And they've literally been able to accurately lay out maps of the planes and buildings and the other things, and these people have never set foot in these places ever. So it's a very, very interesting excerpt in the special features about remote viewing and how it works. And then, of course, it's being used in the movie Suspect Zero. A lot of the different attributes or characteristics about this individual who's playing the hunter of serial killers is very similar to Jack, from shiny shoes to pleated pants to, I mean, I probably wrote down 3 pages of notes watching this movie on things that were coincidental about the Zodiac, and lo and behold, the actual emblem. Now, of course, it doesn't have the cross symbol, but it has the 0 with the slash mark through it, and it's labeled.
It's similar.
It is very similar. It was very, very shocking to see that this program, and of course, this is the one where I say that Harold Cooper from The Blacklist, he's the FBI, not director, but like special agent for The Blacklist. He plays the FBI director in this particular movie, and he's super, super young and super skinny. Interesting. Now, this is where Dennis pipes up in his book and says that in 1998, they moved back to Sacramento. Joanna owned an antique and collectible store at the time. One day I noticed that some of the old whiskey bottles that used to be full is now empty. I soon found out that Jack had started drinking again after 17 years, and he had drank the whiskey that was in those bottles. I figured that Jack was an old man now and thought his drinking would be harmless. I had no idea of what was about to happen. Jack was planning his next murder, my mother. To get away with this crime wouldn't be easy. Jack was going to murder his next victim, and he was going to do it in front of everybody without bringing suspicion upon himself. And to come. Where are we at on time?
We got a little time.
Right. Yes, we do. I wanted to get into this. So, December 25th, and then this is out of Nora's diary. December 25th, 1997, they had Christmas dinner in their office that they got. I don't know how. So again, we show them moving from wherever it was at this point in time. I think it was Texas, back to California, and he's renting or leasing a shop, let alone a place, from somebody who's not working with no money. I'm dumbfounded at how he's capable of getting these things done. Which was also kind of interesting. They're having Christmas dinner in their office, while Dennis believed his office to be an actual living space too in Orangeville and Greenback and Hazel. When I was working with him, he literally had rented a space for a cell shop or a cellular phone repair shop, and he was literally living out of it and purchasing storage sheds to sell things. But it might be Jack that Dennis got that idea from, that was something that was okay to do. I think that these were I think this is the last words we're going to hear from Nora from December 25th of 1997, because I did not have any other diaries from her after that. On January 20th, 1998, we see Jack writing letters in regards to Flova's estate, and he's using the address of 3350 Auburn Boulevard, space 39, which confirms he is back, and that is his location with his RV or motorhome or whatever it is he's pulling up and living in at this point. Because this is that one you and I were talking about last week, Nolan, that was on Watt and Auburn, and you just basically drive up your own rig kind of thing, right? It's
right.
So what I thought was interesting about this is that what Jack was up to, because we might be looking at him like he was an old man after his, congestive heart failure issues and the the hospitalization in early 1997. But this letter kind of tells me that this man is up and running once again. So it's sent to Jim, which is an attorney, and I think who is handling the estate probably for his mom. And it says, "Hi, Jim. I talked to Sandra at the county clerk's office there in Bastrop about changing the deed into my name, but she said that I should talk to you about what is required. Mom passed away December 18th, 1997, and we had her funeral December 22nd in Lockhart," which that confirmed. Let me go back. Yeah, so they returned 2 days after the funeral, basically.
How long had they been in Orangevale?
Not just a couple months. They moved back to California in 1997, which was extremely interesting to me, because why would Jack in the end days of his mom pick up and move? It would had to have been Nora that wanted to do so.
Eerie, because my family's had 3 properties out there right by the intersection of Greenback and Hazel. One on Kefisha by the cemetery there, one on Arbordy by Phoenix Field.
Okay, so the Greenback and Hazel was Dennis, and that was his cell shop. That wasn't Jack. Jack is on Auburn. But it says, "I just got the certified death certificates last Friday. Please let me know if I should send one of them to you for filing the deed or what. Also, if you remember, 1/4 of the place would be J.C. Cade's. Supposedly my sister, E. Sue Cade, was married to him, but I think that she was living with him and took his name. I made a trip to Reno, Nevada and Las Vegas, Nevada to try to find a marriage license, but no luck. Then I went to Los Angeles to try to find a divorce with no luck, spent 3 days down there. I located 2 people to sign the affidavit swearing that my sister was not living with anyone from the time that they met her, 1980 to 1992, when Sue passed away. They are man and wife, Domingo and Lucy Reyes of Austin, or if man and wife won't do, Lucy's boss, Ray Grego, general manager of Exxon Oil Company, USA Austin Division, would sign an affidavit. They all live in Austin, so could the affidavits be made up and sent to them to have them notarized, or will they need to come to your office? I talked to Lucy and Domingo while I was there for Mom's funeral, and they are willing. I have not talked to Ray Grego, but I'm sure he would sign one. He is Lucy's boss. It used to be his boss. So evidently at some point in time, he worked for Exxon Oil. Sue's and Domingo's boss also at Exxon in Austin. So Jim, please let me know what I can do." My interesting take on this is that we know that he went out to Texas, obviously, to do the burial of his mother. But then at some point in time afterwards, he's not only gone to Reno, Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada, to Los Angeles. He's all over the place once again, traveling. And within maybe a week or so, he said he spent 3 days in Los Angeles. So who knows how many days he spent in the other locations. But he's clearly on the run doing all kinds of things. So February 1st, 1988, Jack is mailing a creditor of Flova's, and the address he is now using is a P.O. box in Citrus Heights, which I don't know why you would have a P.O. box in Citrus Heights if you're living out of Watton, Auburn. That didn't make a lot of sense to me. These areas are substantially far from one another for mailing purposes, unless his office was located in that area. On February 9th to 14th, 1998, Jack has airline receipts for flying back to Texas with a car rental that he is still using the 800 Nelda Street address. So now I'm starting to think the Nelda Street address is his mom's, and that's the one he's attempting to obtain the deed to, so he can either sell or, who knows, probably passes it off to a family member so he still has a home base when he goes back there. And he is using Jack W. Terrence once again. So we saw this flip-flop in 1997 from Jack Terrence to John Terrence to Jack Torrance, and then Terrence with a T-E instead of a T-A. All of these different names that are being used back and forth. February 3rd of 1998, we have a phone bill from AT&T in Charles Terrence's name. However, the record was kept and paid by Jack Terrence. So either Jack couldn't get another phone record or another phone number, or this is Charles's phone that he's paying for. February 4th to December 3rd of 1998, Jack is writing checks in his and Nora's name using the 3350 Auburn Boulevard address. So again, we've got him basically toggling back and forth between 2 different locations. On March 9th of 1998, Jack executes a promissory note with Califia Bilquist for $400 using the address of 4608 Auburn Boulevard, Suite 4. I think this might actually be the business address, because I believe it puts him closer possibly to the Citrus Heights post office versus the Auburn. Auburn's very long, everybody. It runs quite a distance through Sacramento on into Citrus Heights and all the way down into Roseville. So it's a very, very long street. On March 24th of 1998, Jack receives requests for clarification of death of his siblings, presumably in the estate of Flova, and he's still using the 3350 Auburn Boulevard address. And he's receiving these letters from Texas. Now, we start to see on June 11th, in June of 1998, we start to see more unsolved murders pop up again. We have this one is an unidentified human skeletal remains on the 600 block of Airline Drive, Conroe, Texas. Because it's not identified, we have no idea when this person went missing or was killed. But there was a most recent female that was missing, and that was Michelle Prasic and Jessica Kane. June 28th of 1998, 8-year-old Robert Ray Middleton goes missing off the 11,000 block of Crossno Drive in Cleveland, Texas. Attack occurred along a wooded trail. Suspect used gasoline and set him on fire while he was alive, burning over 95% of his body. He succumbed to his injuries on April 29th, 2011. I don't understand that. I wrote check the date because that doesn't make any sense that he was attacked on 1998. Well, maybe he had that many years. That would have been 13
a lot of years to
survive.
Yeah, 13 years. Yeah.
Right. And I would assume that's lots of surgeries, lots of pain, lots of everything. August 6th of 1998, unidentified human skeletal remains on the 21,000 block of Baptist Encampment Road in New Caney, Texas. Children playing in an abandoned house found remains on top of the ground in the doorway. This area was flood prone. The skull was evidence of a previous autopsy. That blew my mind. Like, so there's somebody else, right? So who has any clue how this ended up where it ended up, or how somebody else had already done an autopsy on it and then it ends up dumped somewhere? That's 1048. Yeah. So I think before going on with anything else, we can pick up on the rest of the stuff next week. We've got a couple minutes. Any comments or questions or anything that we'd like to cover?
I'm okay. Oh, just my latest book is another Black Dahlia book, and it's written by a really very good writer, and she's a great researcher, and she has a whole different take than Hodel, son. She has two other suspects. Mark Hansen, this nightclub owner and kind of from a Nordic background, who was a gangster as well, who had lots of girlfriends and had Elizabeth Short stayed at his house on Carlos Street in LA for a while. And this woman, Ann Tooth, who was her friend, Elizabeth Short's friend, but it was also the girlfriend of Hansen. And they pinpoint the murder locale as this place, the Astor Hotel in Los Angeles, these little bungalows. And Elizabeth was in the number 3, and the owners found lots of blood and feces and all kinds of stuff in that particular room, but they didn't notify the cops till years later. Well, look,
that makes me want to search my presentation, because I know I just feel like instinctively I've heard this word. So let's look while we're doing this and see if we find Mark Hansen, because I feel like this has definitely come up before.
Yeah, and he's the primary. Well, he and this other guy named Dylan, a younger guy. Hansen, basically, Dylan worked for Hansen.
Yeah, so in July 1946, Short moves to Long Beach, California, lived with Mark Hansen at the Florentine Gardens October and November of 1946, stayed with Dorothy French in San Diego December of 1946, and Chancellor Apartments, 1842 North Cherokee. And then, so Sherry Dobrich typewritten describes Black Dahlia's murder and the posing of the body. Okay, so yeah, I have seen the Mark Hansen Oh, that puts us at our last the last second, but it does go on to say address book was said to be embossed with Mark Hansen. There's a lot of information about Mark Hansen there, so absolutely correct.
Yeah. He also had
all right,
strong ties to
well,
the cops.
we're
Hansen
at
did.
our gotcha, and we can maybe cover that once you get a little more into the book, but we are done with today's episode, so I want to thank everybody for being here. And we will get back with you next Friday on this. And if you come up with anything more interesting out of that book, I'd love to hear it. Thank you,
Yes,
Lindsay, and
I'm
thank you,
about
Nolan.
2/3 of the way through. Okay, thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Peace.
Oh,